affirm the importance of tapping into those gifts that are a part of us, tapping into the technologies that are available to us. And we're not talking about the computer. We're talking about how our minds and our spirits are greater and even more expansive and more grand than this technology that we're using right now. The computer was actually crafted as a reflection of the human mind. So, we have these things that we use, but we also have all these gifts and abilities and technologies that we have a tendency to not tap into and to forget about. And now is the time to, really blow the abang, to tap into the akabin and really take a call to action, because it's time for the people to wake up and recognize that we have abilities beyond what's right in front of us. And I'm just so grateful to be able to be here with you today, so that we can talk about these amazing things like crystals and sound vibrational healing, sound vibrational therapy, sound therapy, and also psychedelics, and really talk about, the plant and mineral kingdom. And my first question to you, Brother Ankara, is how did you get started working with mushrooms and other psychedelics?
Well, my history with mushrooms and psychedelics goes back to my early teenage years, probably about 16 or 17 years old. I grew up in the state of Florida, the Sunshine State, and we have access there to the psychedelic mushrooms to grow in the cow pastures. And so as a youth, I discovered pretty quickly that we could go out into these fields and gather these little organic technologies, these little magic mushrooms. And so I first started connecting with them as a youth, as a teenager, and I very quickly understood that it wasn't a drug or a party thing or something that I was to do to get off, so to speak. It was something that was revealing myself to me and revealing a new way of thinking and being. And so I very quickly started working with them in that sense, and in a sacred sense, and that I would go in as and utilize it as a tool of exploration into consciousness, and so I very quickly got into the utilization of these plant entheogens. In Florida, we really only had access to mushrooms. I did work with LSD when I was a youth as well, but it's not something that stuck with me or really felt like in alignment with who I was. However, the mushrooms have stayed with me throughout my life, and they also have kind of led me into this path of working with other plant entheogens, such as ayahuasca and peyote. So I've sat with native elders and other medicine people in different areas, in Mexico and here in the States, working with the grandfather peyote and grandmother ayahuasca, and I have gained a whole plethora of information and experiences through connecting with these plants, as well as learning more about the cultural heritage that goes with them, and the teachings, like the inner teachings of the shamanic path and the medicine way. So I was fortunate enough to connect with indigenous peoples and be involved in ceremonial utilization of these plants. So it's never been about a party or look at the lights experience. For me, it's about really connecting with myself, and then connecting with indigenous culture, connecting with the earth, and connecting with this higher consciousness that we speak of.
Beautiful. I love it. And thank you for just bringing, the idea of really tapping into the sacredness of the ceremony. Because oftentimes, well, not oftentimes, but I'll say sometimes, people want to take the journey because it is just about the party. But there's so much more that you get, as you dive into these deeper realms and walk, the shamanic path, and just open up these gateways and these doors that were not open. So can you talk to me a little bit about what some of the benefits are that are associated with mushrooms?
Yeah, definitely. Well, there's psychedelic mushrooms have a very long history with indigenous people of Central America and other places in the world, but particularly, the cultural traditions of, ones like Maria Sabina in Mexico. So they have that sort of traditional sacred use, and they were used traditionally for healing. They're known as the curanderas, the healers.
Yes.
And they would, utilize these mushrooms to go into like trance-like states, and they would have access to like these trans-dimensional realms where they could go into the past or go into the future. They could see where a trauma was inflicted. They could carry a person into the future and show them where their path lies in the future. So these mushrooms gave them, access to a higher compendium of, not only information, but like tools. It's essentially, as we mentioned, it's an organic technology. So they were really utilizing them in that sense, and in a sacred way. Now, as we move, into current times and into the future, we have a lot more information available to us. We have a lot more actual scientific research that informs us about some of the benefits, and then also, of course, there's things that are precautions or things that you may want to really dive into a little bit deeper before you go into these experiences, because it's not all just like rainbows and butterflies.
It's not.
There is a dark shadow side, and be willing and ready to meet that. But as far as the benefits go, modern science and research is showing that it's really great for treating PTSD for soldiers and other people that have major trauma experiences.
Absolutely.
It can treat that. It helps treat anxiety and depression, which
Absolutely.
are a massive portion of the population is facing depression and anxiety, particularly in this time, as we know, with everything happening in the world. The suicide rate is way up right now. And a lot of that is the source of, the depression and anxiety is the source of this. And most people don't even know where these things come from or why they're experiencing them. So mushrooms are really great for doing that. And then as well, they're a great tool of exploration and transformation. It's not just about always like we got to heal and we got this thing to mend. It's about exploring consciousness, going into these transdimensional realms, and finding places where we are not affected by things like viruses and racism, and there's that, as long as we're here on this dualistic plane within this earth and this world, that's going to be taking place. We live in a dual plane where there is positive, negative, day and night, black and white. And so that we're going to deal with those things until we find ways and access these portals. These mushrooms and these psychedelics are portals. Once you open them and you go through, you realize that there are places where we can experience where there isn't pain. You know what I mean? There isn't all of this trauma and all of this war. We can go there and meet up with each other. We can start to create a map for the collective, so that as the future generations come in, they have like a roadmap to this place, that they have access, and it's not just all mysterious and in the dark anymore. It's like we are